The sun is gone. There is no fire. Not yet, not for you, not for the long line of ancestors who lived before anyone learned to hold a flame. You are a small, slow, soft-bodied animal in the dark. The things that hunt you are faster, stronger, and built for exactly this hour. For most of the time that creatures like you have walked the earth, the night was not a time to rest. It was the most dangerous stretch of every single day. Tonight you will fall asleep behind a locked door, under a solid roof, in a warm room, behind walls no predator could ever break through. You will set an alarm. You might worry about how late you stayed on your phone. The most dangerous thing in your bedroom is the temptation to scroll. Now take all of that away. No walls, no roof, no fire. Just you, the cold ground, a few trees, and the dark pressing in from every direction. How did anyone survive that, night after night, for hundreds of thousands of years? The first thing you have to accept is uncomfortable. For a very long time you were not the hunter. You were the hunted. We have proof of this, and it comes from a cave in South Africa called Swartkrans. In the 1970s and 80s, a scientist named C.K. Brain spent years studying the broken bones piled up inside it. He was doing what is called taphonomy, which simply means the study of what happens to a body after death, written in the marks left on the bones. And the marks told a brutal story. Many of the early human skulls had 2 neat puncture holes in them. Brain measured the distance between those holes. They matched the spacing of a leopard's lower fangs, almost exactly. The conclusion was hard to avoid. These were not hunters who had died in their sleep. These were meals. A leopard had clamped its jaws around their heads and carried them up into the dark to eat them. So this is the world your distant ancestors woke up to. Leopards that could carry your body weight straight up a tree. Hyenas that hunted in packs and crushed bone with their jaws. Big cats with teeth longer than your fingers. And every evening, the sun went down and handed the whole world over to them. You had no claws. You had no fangs. You could not see in the dark. You could not outrun almost anything that wanted to eat you. So how are you here at all? The answer is not strength. The answer is strategy. The first strategy was simple and ancient. You went up. Long before there were humans, your ape ancestors slept in the trees, and your closest living relatives still do. A primatologist named Fiona Stewart has studied how chimpanzees build their sleeping nests, bending and weaving branches into a springy platform high off the ground every single evening. It keeps them away from ground predators. It keeps them off the cold, damp earth. And it gives them a more solid, more protected night of sleep than they would ever get below. For millions of years, this was the plan. Climb. Build a bed in the canopy. Sleep where the leopards have to work for it. The dark was still dangerous, but height bought you a margin. Then your ancestors began to change. Their bodies became taller, their legs longer, their feet flatter, built for walking and running across open ground rather than climbing. And somewhere in that transition, they started coming down out of the trees to sleep. Which raises a terrifying question. Why would any animal abandon the one place that kept it safe at night? Because they had found something better than a tree. They had found each other. This is the second strategy, and it is the one that truly saved you. Numbers. A single human asleep on the ground is a snack. 30 humans sleeping together, in a ring, on open ground, where nothing can sneak up unseen, is a different proposition entirely. Predators are calculating animals. They want an easy meal and a safe exit. A large, alert group offers neither. But a group only works if someone is paying attention. And here is where the science gets genuinely strange and genuinely beautiful. In 2017, 2 researchers named David Sampson and Charles Nunn published a study of the Hadza, a community in Tanzania who still live partly by hunting and gathering. The team tracked exactly when each person was asleep and when each was awake across many nights. They were testing an idea called the sentinel hypothesis. A sentinel is just a guard, someone who stays awake and watches while others rest. The hypothesis asks a quiet, important question. What if humans evolved to never all be asleep at the same time? What they found was remarkable. Across more than 200 hours of observation, there was almost no moment when every single person in the group was asleep at once. On average, at any given time during the night, several people were awake. Not on purpose. Not on a schedule. Nobody was assigned the night shift. It simply happened. How? Because people went to sleep at slightly different times, woke for a few minutes at slightly different times, and drifted in and out across the night in a loose, overlapping rhythm. The young stayed up late. The older members woke early and lightly. There was almost always at least one pair of open eyes by the dying light, scanning the dark. The researchers had a name for this idea, and it is unforgettable. They called it the poorly sleeping grandparent hypothesis. The light, broken sleep we tend to think of as a problem of old age may not be a flaw at all. It may be a feature. For most of human history, the elders who woke at 3 in the morning and could not get back to sleep were not suffering. They were standing guard. So, let's reconstruct a single night. Before fire, the way your ancestors actually lived it. The light is fading fast. There is no slow electric dusk, no porch light, no glow on the horizon from a distant city. When the sun drops, the dark is total. Your group gathers close on a patch of open ground, backs toward the center, bodies near enough to feel each other's warmth. The children are tucked between the adults. Someone is murmuring. Someone is already breathing slow and deep. You lie down on the bare earth. It is cold. The night sounds begin, and every one of them matters. A snapped twig. A low cough in the grass that is not a human cough. Your body does not fully let go. Even in sleep, part of your brain stays tuned to threat, ready to snap you awake in an instant. You sleep shallow. You sleep in pieces. You wake, you listen, you sleep again. And here is the part that surprises people most. You probably do not sleep as long as you think your ancestors did. In 2015, a sleep scientist named Jerome Siegel and his colleague Gandhi Yetish measured sleep in 3 different communities that still live without electricity, including the Hadza, the San of Namibia, and the Seaman of Bolivia. The popular belief was that people in the past slept long, restful nights, going down with the sun and rising with it. The data said otherwise. These communities slept on average around 6.5 hours a night, often less than a modern office worker, and they almost never slept the moment darkness fell. They stayed up in the cool of the evening, then slept through the coldest part of the night, and stirred as it began to warm before dawn. Temperature, not light, ran the whole system. Your ancestors did not sleep when it got dark. They slept when it got cold. Now here is the twist, and it changes how you should see the fire you have been picturing this whole time. When fire finally did arrive, it did not just keep you warm. The earliest strong evidence for controlled fire comes from places like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, studied by a researcher named Francesco Berna, where burnt bone and ash sit deep in layers around 1 million years old. And fire did something no spear and no group ever could. It pushed the dark back. A ring of flame is a wall that leopards will not cross. For the first time, the night was not purely something to be endured. It became something to gather around. And what did your ancestors do with all that new, safe firelit time? An anthropologist named Polly Weissner studied exactly this question among the San. She found that daytime talk was mostly practical. About food, about plans, about who did what. But the talk around the night fire was different. At night, by the flames, people told stories. They spoke of distant relatives, of spirits, of people who were not there, of the wider world beyond the camp. Firelight did not just protect your ancestors' bodies. It gave them the first long, safe hours to build imagination, myth, and the bonds that hold a people together. So the dark made you vigilant. The group made you safe. And the fire, when it came, turned the most dangerous hours of your life into the hours where you became most fully human. You still carry every piece of this. The reason you wake at the smallest unfamiliar sound in the night. The reason a single creak in an empty house can flood your whole body with alertness in under a second. The reason total darkness can still feel, somewhere underneath your reason, like a threat. That is not weakness. That is a finely tuned survival system, built across hundreds of thousands of nights, when staying alert in the dark was the difference between waking up and not. Tonight, you will lie down in a room your ancestors could not have imagined. No leopards in the grass. No need for a sentinel. No cold deciding when you sleep. You are the safest sleeping animal that has ever existed on this planet, and you barely notice. The sun is gone. You reach over and turn off the light yourself. The dark is just the dark now, and the only thing watching you sleep is no one at all. And somewhere deep in your body, an old, tired animal that stood guard for 1,000,000 years finally, fully, lets down its guard.